Meet Keketso Mashego, a communications graduate from Tembisa, east of Johannesburg.
I grew up in a very poor family where both my parents were unemployed. But one thing I liked about my family is that we were not intellectually poor, but we were materially poor. My mother always made sure that she goes out and she find books for us, and then she'd fill them from my friends and then take the books back home and then for us to read. After matric, I came this side, and when I came this side, I slept on the street for 3 weeks because my family couldn't pay for any residence in Pretoria. I still had to then buy a book. I remember the book that I had to buy was International Relation Theory 1. It costed 600. I didn't have that money. So I had to make copies, to go to the library and make copies. Remember, it's forbidden to make copies there, but I had to negotiate my way out, and then I paid something like 300 for that, for those copies. That's how bad I wanted to be educated. After completing my diploma, I started then applying. I started even before I graduated because I graduated in April. It's very confusing, when you apply and then you don't get feedback with regard to your application. It's at least better if they say to you that you don't qualify because of this and that. And I know for a fact that I apply for jobs that need maybe at least 1 year, sometimes no experience. But still, you don't get any feedback from any institution.
Keketso was recently disturbed after reading a Facebook comment that made negative references to affirmative action.
I was offended by a post sent by a guy called Andy. He said, affirmative action is why can't people get employment because they deserve it and not because of their skin color? And why should he and his children suffer because of this affirmative action? And he feels it's just like apartheid in reverse, finishing klar.
During apartheid South Africa, the government of the time, as a matter of state policy, favored white-owned, especially Afrikaner-owned companies. The aforementioned policies achieved the desired results, but in the process marginalized and excluded black people. Skilled jobs were also reserved for white people, and blacks were largely used as unskilled labor, which was enforced by legislation. The economic and politically structured society during apartheid ultimately caused disparities in employment, occupation, and income within labor markets, which provided advantages to certain groups of people. This, in due course, was the motivation to introduce affirmative action in South Africa following the end of apartheid. Affirmative action was put in place to redress decades of inequality by implementing quotas for black workers in South African companies. Years later, however, the policy has its share of critics. Some people are crying foul, claiming that those programs that claim to combat racism are racist themselves.
Hi, my name's Andy Jones. I'm 54 years old. I live in Honeydew. When I left school, I wanted to study drama. There was no money in the family to go to varsity, so I went to work for a financial institution. I was with them for 4 years, did pretty well. I had progressed pretty quickly because I was on an accelerated trainee program because of my past experience. So we had a very nice house, a couple of cars, a couple of motorbikes. I was living the life, I really was. There was a chance of promotion coming up, and came in one Monday morning and there was a guy sitting in the desk that was supposed to have been mine, ostensibly. And when I asked what it was, no, I was told straight out. No, because of affirmative action, we've employed a gentleman of colour to fill the post. Honestly, it didn't hassle me. What hassled me was when they turned around and said, oh, by the way, you must train him. Now I'm sitting with 11 years experience in a situation, I must now train a guy to be my boss. I told them to go to hell. And within 2 months, I'd been fired. My kids went from going to good schools, well, my oldest daughter ended up going to doing homeschooling because we just had no money to pay for school fees. And if it wasn't for the fact that I got an incredibly strong wife, I think that what was caused by affirmative action would have broken my family up completely. I did say that affirmative action, and I think I had every reason to say it. I'll tell you why. A friend of mine's son committed suicide after 5 to 6 years at varsity, highly qualified, can't get a job. was told over and over and over again that the jobs he was applying for were affirmative action posts. The fact that he's qualified meant nothing. To see somebody cut down in the prime of their life just because they can't get a job because of the color of their skin sucks.
Meanwhile, back in Tembisa, Keketso has a challenge for Andy.
I think Andy got it twisted. I think as black people we have it easy because of affirmative action. And that's just like not understanding where we come from as black people. So Andy, I'm challenging you so that you can understand why we African black people need affirmative action.
The message has been sent, and across town in Honeydew, Andy receives the invitation.
I've just had a response to my little Facebook rant. Keketso from Tembisa reckons I'm talking crap. And he says I must go and spend some time with him so he can prove me wrong. Well, I don't believe I'm wrong, boy. I don't believe I'm wrong at all. But I'm willing to listen, so, Keketso, challenge accepted.
The challenge is on. Andy will now swap his life for an experience with a black unemployed graduate. Still to come.
Investing, the only difference
That's
was...
a lie.
the white, don't ever tell me I'm lying. That's one thing you never tell me.
54-year-old entertainer Andy James believes that affirmative action is apartheid in reverse. He's on his way to meet Keketso, a 27-year-old unemployed graduate who believes that affirmative action is relevant and meant to address the wrongs of the past.
Oh, hi, Andy.
Awesome.
How are you?
Quite a bit younger than I thought you would be, right?
Yeah, man. That's okay. How are you? Good?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm good, man.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, man.
The two have finally met, and it's not long before they are at loggerheads with each other.
White people are in the minority in this country, but we have a large number of white people who still owns companies, and then they employ their own kids.
You're talking the white people employing their own kids. Why are they doing that? Because it's a heritage.
No, but Andy, you don't. There's one thing you're refusing to actually accept. The reason why you're saying that we have a white company that should be employing it's like sort of like inheritance, because if I have a company, I'll give it to my son.
Yeah.
That's what affirmative action want to address. To say to you, don't only give to white people, because you've disprivileged these people. Give back to them. Where should they go? I mean, one.
But if I started my company from nothing.
No.
If I started my company from nothing.
Not from nothing.
Where do you think my first equipment for my disco came from?
When you start a company, you need capital. You need land.
Where'd I get it from?
Right, where do you get them from?
The capital I got from my parents.
Where did you get it from?
My father worked for it.
Where did they get it from?
No, he worked for it.
No.
He got it. Yes, he did.
I thought he was just someone who understood history and someone who could actually take me on that. So when I started speaking to him, I could understand that he has little appreciation of South African history. What were the policies of investment by that time? Was it favoring black people, or was the policy favoring only white people to invest in companies?
Well, see, that's where you don't understand. The people that did most of the investing, there was no white majority or black majority. There was a complete equal amount of people investing. The only difference was the white. Don't ever tell me I'm lying. That's one thing you never tell me.
I believe that is just a stupid lie. You mustn't be saying that. I mean, at the end of the day, you must understand that white people were protected by policy. When we speak of apartheid, we're not speaking of the land. We're speaking of policies that were giving white people privilege over black people.
Do not ever call me a liar. If you want to get on my wrong side, that's the first thing you do. These are my opinions. I'm not forcing my opinions on him, and I do not need him calling me a liar.
I can see that it's very difficult to change your mindset, and so I'm very happy that you accepted my invitation to be taken into a journey where you can learn about all your misconceptions about affirmative action. So I hope that it actually give you another clear perspective of why do we need affirmative action as black people.
Challenge is accepted, but you've got to understand something. You're telling me that my misconceptions, I hope you can prove me wrong.
All right.
It's the following day in Tembisa, and Keketso is getting ready to take Andy to a place where they will find out about the origins of affirmative action. Keketso and Andy are making their way to the Black Management Forum, where they're met by Busi Mavuso, the managing director of the organization.
The reason why affirmative action was implemented in this country back in 1994 was precisely to address the previous imbalances that were imposed on black people in this country for more than 300 years.
Yes, no, I agree with that. I don't have any argument with that.
And the injustices that I'm talking about is the deliberate exclusion of black people in the economic mainstream.
Yeah.
As per the last Commission of Employment Equity report, stats that were released in 2016, the numbers say that at the senior management levels of corporate South Africa, the stats is 14% black and 70% white. The other 16% is between Indian and colored. So then when you look at whites having 70% of senior management echelons, it therefore tells you that the system as it stands still continues to perpetuate and harbor the so-called white privilege that has been there.
You cannot say you are a democratic country with economic emancipation when you still have 70% of white people owning the economy.
The stats in the country today are saying there's 78% black people, there's 9.9% white people, there's 4% Indians and 5% colored. And when we look at companies, we want to go into companies and see this fair representation at all levels of the organization.
Do you honestly think it's a pipe dream? It's never going to happen. That's what I'm concerned about.
But you see, when you go to China, Japan, and Singapore, you are not confused where you are because their companies look Chinese, Japanese, you know. But when you come into South Africa and you go to the 12th floor or whatever the executive level floor is, you're probably confused in terms of where you are, you know, in the country, because chances are that you're going to walk into a boardroom full of white males and you're going to sit with an exco full of white males.
In South Africa, you don't only have blacks, you don't only have whites, you have thousands of different people. You've got Chinese, you've got Japanese, you've got Indians, you've got blacks, you've got whites. Yes, obviously, the people are going to gravitate towards people of their own race. It's unfortunate, whether you like it or not, it's going to happen.
Actually, your case is not different than the Barnard woman, the SAPS case, where she took and said that affirmative action was unfair, she was most qualified for the position, and so forth and so forth. And the Constitutional Court threw it out, and because the employment equity plan of the SAPS said that the people that they needed to employ now, because remember, if you're going to say, I need to employ 5 black people, 5 white people, 5 Indians, and 5. As soon as you have employed 5 white people,
then you have to go to the rest.
Exactly, it doesn't matter how many white people qualify.
No, I'm not arguing with that. I'm not saying that's wrong. What I'm saying
I'm
is,
just trying to explain that principle to say that. So we have.
You don't need to. I accept what you're saying.
Yes.
When a white person knows he's up against a black person to get promotion, he's going to work twice as hard because he knows that he's got to. And unfortunately, in some occasions, it doesn't work the other way around.
After that heated discussion, Keketso has an interesting challenge up his sleeve for both he and Andy.
And yeah, I can see in me that you're not convinced about the fact that blacks as opposed to white can't find employment. It's very difficult for them. So today I have a challenge for you. We're going to stand by the intersection and try to check out our CVs. So see who hands the most CVs as compared to each. So make sure you're handing this board like this outside at the beginning. So I believe that this actually, the task that we're doing today will prove to him, in great detail, that there is a large number of white people who don't employ black people. They only employ black people for those small employments. They take them for those, useless jobs.
To be honest, the traffic light task, I think, is going to be a waste of time. The whole idea of this is to be black against white. But as far as I'm concerned, what we've got with this task is you've got fat, old white with trim, young black. I'm almost willing to guarantee he gives all his away and I don't even think I'll give one away.
Yeah, so you don't know anywhere where you can actually at least throw my CV. They want industrial. No, right, no, thank you. Why? Because it's not only for us, it's for the South Africans to understand the fact that black people are still in the majority suffering to get employment. So when Andy was actually handing out the CV, and he was just standing there with a billboard, whereas from my side, I felt the passion, actually wanted to go out and talk to people. Whereas Andy, for him, it was, I know I got actually somewhere to go. I have a place to sleep. I have actually a big house.
How's it, pal? You want to see me? Thanks.
Have your number in there? All right, Andy.
That backfired, didn't it?
Still have 5?
No, it's all right.
No problem. But like, I don't know. Let's just reflect on everything over lunch. I have somewhere I can take you over lunch.
Cool.
Let's just,
Great, man.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
To unwind and reflect, Keketso is taking Andy across town to Alexandra, where he treats him to a local favorite food known as kota.
What do you think of the kota?
Well, there's a big sign there that says the best quarter in Alex. They weren't joking. It's damn nice.
Okay. Generally, how do you feel about the fact that you got Wusi telling you about the stats on how many black people are still poor and how many white people still own the...
I'll be honest with you. She was actually open to suggestion. It was a lot more than I expected.
Yeah.
She put everything over in such a way that you couldn't argue with it.
Yeah.
I mean, facts, figures, everything is 100%. And to top it all, she's just a hell of a nice lady.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to ask you a question.
You can ask me a question, you think?
How did you think of the results of our little exercise on the corner of those two busy roads? It backfired just a bit, didn't it? You got rid of 5 CVs and I only got rid of 1.
Yeah.
And the scary part was the guy who took the 1 CV from me was a young black guy, must have been 26, 27, a graduate. You could see it. And he looked at me and he says, come give me one. He says, it's just not fair that you should be standing here without a job.
But as long as you actually gave out your 1 CV...
I did. I gave out 1. You gave out 5.
But I think
you got
the whole
5 more
task,
chances of getting a job than me.
Yeah, but for me personally, I think the whole task was just based on misguided... misguided... I don't know, guidelines or interpretations. Because you have to understand the fact that you cannot... it's color, it's black and white, but then the age thing came into play.
Thrown in, actually did, yeah.
Yeah, age played a huge factor there.
I suppose there's still 1 more day. So
and the fact that he was standing there, you were actually not moving the way I was moving, going on the windows.
Are you surprised? I'm old.
Still to come.
I was a G-string waiter on ladies' nights. Wow.
It's day 2 in Tembisa, and unemployed graduate Keketso Mashego is taking 54-year-old entertainer Andy James, who believes that affirmative action is apartheid in reverse, to Lily's Leaf Farm, a World Heritage Site that was a safe haven for some of South Africa's struggle icons, where they're met by the CEO, Nicholas Wolpe.
You feel frustrated because you feel that you are not benefiting from the new South Africa. I am very critical of the white population in this country because we still, to some degree, have not taken responsibility for 300 years of persecution.
We tend to forget history, and it becomes a nightmare for a lot of us. So now, my experience of Andy is that he is one of those white people who tend to suffer from amnesia, and they actually deliberately choose to forget the history of the country.
My father, in fact, in 1973 wrote a seminal paper where he argued that apartheid was not driven by race, but was driven by economic imperatives, which race was used as the tool and mechanism, just like the Jim Crow laws back in the 1800s in America had the same thing. If we understand that, then we can start to say, how do we address the balances? White people must understand that there needs to be a addressing the economics. I have been advocating that we need to take the preamble of our Freedom Charter and make it a pledge.
I'm leaving here with a totally new respect for the CEO of this place. The man knows his stuff. Number two, the whole Freedom Charter isn't just in the favour of, excuse my comment, but it's not just in favour of black people. It's in favour of all South Africans, of which I'm proudly one.
After that thought-provoking conversation, Keketso takes Andy to a Shisanyama for a farewell meal, where they're joined by Keketso's longtime friend, Vincent, who is an ex-convict.
Actually, when I grew up as a young man in the Kasi, I saw that now I'm unemployed and I'm coming from a family background that is, financial disadvantage. Then I thought that doing crime, it's a shortcut of living, and I can make living and taking from whites because they have.
It's funny how he says it, but it's true. It's very funny how he says it. But
No, I can accept that. But the one thing I never understand, why crime?
Yeah.
Is there nothing else you could do? Nothing at all that you could do other than crime?
I didn't have any option actually, because I went to market for a job, but I didn't find any.
If I tell you, I lost everything, okay? And I mean everything. Couldn't get a job. I had two choices. Crime or anything else.
Yeah.
Anything to make money. Shall I tell you what I did to make money?
What?
I was a G-string waiter on ladies' nights.
Wow.
It got me money to survive, but what it also did, it helped me meet people who could offer me jobs in in different fields. But now what I'm going to ask you, now that you're out, what are you doing with your life now?
Okay. Now I'm doing the transformational talks and the motivational talks in schools. I transform young children, the next coming generation to change. I share with them the past experience and the life in prison.
I like it.
Okay. So let's put it this way: is all of us agree that poverty is not an excuse for crime.
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all. Not at
You
all.
cannot use poverty as an excuse
Exactly.
to say I did crime because I was poor. There's a lot of people
I
in
like
South
your
Africa.
friend. Can I finish my food now?
All right, it's okay. No,
Cheers, man.
not a chance. No, a chance, man.
It's been an eventful 2 days for Keketso and Andy, and now it's time for Andy to head back home. But before he leaves, what do the two men who were at loggerheads 2 days ago feel about affirmative action now?
I'll be honest with you, I still think but what I've seen has made me realize it's actually not advantageous to either of us. And the sooner they either finish it or get rid of it, the better for you and for me. Well, not really for me, for my kids. Last but not least, God, I miss my dogs.
All right, Andy. I also think it was fantastic. I mean, it was very nice. And I like the fact that you became brave and you took up the challenge. And you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for South Africa. And thank you, Andy.
That's good.
Yeah,
So I look forward to seeing you my side.
Yeah, man. I'm very sick.
Thanks, man.
All right. Having information about the history of the country is very important, regardless of one's race. And what I've learned is that there's a huge need to make sure that we close the gap between white and black.
I have just spent 2 days with a qualified young man who also can't get a job. My opinions of affirmative action haven't really changed, but we need a government that can actually carry through on things that benefit both white and black. The Constitution states South Africa is for those who live in it. I may be white, but I am proudly an African.